Javier, we had a traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series match, uninterrupted by commercial breaks, which was nice. We didn't miss any eliminations. I thought it was fine. It was cool that they put that match out there. Kind of showed you why they don't do the match a lot, because a lot of people had to do jobs to get it down to one-on-one at the end, and WWE doesn't like to have a bunch of big names do jobs to random people in matches. That's one of the things that discourages them from doing this match as regularly as they did in the past. They just want someone getting pinned or submitted, not only to be a big deal, but also just certain wrestlers against each other who are big names. They want that to stay novel and not give it away in spurts in a kind of throwaway 5-on-5 match. So this was a good match to have, because they're not super invested in Shinsuke Nakamura at this stage of his career. Motor City Machine Guns can certainly do jobs, and they let Rey Fenix be showcased, and it came down to Sammy and Solo. I won't say predictably, but logically. They could have done a twist on that, and it was fine. And then we had a little angle at the end with Uncle Howdy and his Wyatt Six showing up to add a little something extra afterwards to reward people who stuck around to the end. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, the beginning was a bit slow. I didn't like so much the beginning because, the idea was there was so much bad blood between these two groups that I was expecting a little bit more like a harder hitting. And instead we got just like a standard, multi-man tag team match for the most part. Everybody getting their spots and nobody, trying to get an extra hit in and stuff like that. It cleaned up like towards the end where all of a sudden the heels start getting a much bigger advantage, and you have the underdog Sami Zayn against the three. I thought it's interesting they have Solo win. I'm assuming it's because he's in the John Cena tournament. It would look bad if he ends up losing.
Yeah.
So that, I think that already, sets that up. But overall, I liked it, and it's funny that you mentioned that having big names that don't cross each other, because that actually was like my favorite thing, where you would have two people just like for 5 seconds mixing it up, just so you could say, oh, just a taste of what we could have in the future. So I actually think that's more of a benefit than anything. But yeah, the whole I was marking down like how
like the Royal Rumble, by the way.
Yeah, like moments like that, yeah, with a little bit more, but yeah. And then, but then, yeah, you have like the pin, moves that would normally not end in pins, being the way that they go, where it's like the one time the transitional move ends up in a pin. But outside of that, it was a fun enough match, and it's pretty much what I expected.
Anything? I mean, they had Tala Tonga lose by countout, which did not surprise me. They're still protecting him. That's kind of traditional for guys who are treated as giants or big guys to be protected, because the feeling is their mystique goes away. The sense of being indestructible goes kaput once they start losing. And that was fine. I mean, I think count-out finishes should be used more often and lose the stigma that they have. But did anything else about the way the match played out and who got pinned, how and when surprise you? I will enter in just how kind of decisively and quickly and unceremoniously Shinsuke lost. But I think they wanted my thinking of why they did it is they wanted the Gun, Shelley and Sabin, to be able to do some high-flying moves mid-match. And they wanted Phoenix to have a chance to showcase what he's doing. And Sammy's the last guy standing in the booking. So Shinsuke kind of had to be first, or you had to completely restructure the match and go even longer before a babyface lost. So I get the logic, but when it happened, it surprised me. And then I thought it through and thought, okay, I see why they did it.
Yeah, and it also you have to give Tama Tonga something, because they're setting him up for what looks like a U.S. title shot too.
Yep.
So, and he's not going to, because you mentioned that it was either, I thought it was going to be either Solo or Tama as the last one. For that reason, I forgot that Solo was still in the John Cena tournament, which which case I would like, okay, yeah, Solo's the one. But I thought it was going to be one of those two. So yeah, I think you just kind of have to give Tama something, and it was him doing his whatever his new finisher's called, like out of the surprising Shinsuke. So yeah, it I was surprised a bit, but not like flabbergasted.
Yeah. Was there a particular highlight for you?
Not particularly in this match. I mean, I guess a bit like if just the highlight was just the I almost want to call it a low light. I was kind of hoping more tandem matches from the Motor City Machine Guns, which is what they're expert at. But they were able to get that one pin on. That was actually the one that was surprising me, was JC Mattel like going out as he did. It was a tandem match, a tandem move, so that's fine. So I don't think he gets hurt by him taking like a random pin, but it was still surprising. It was he was the first one that decided to take.
Yeah, there's a little stigma to being the first eliminated. I mean, again, it's not a big deal, but if JC Mateo is being protected like Tala Tonga is, and like Sammy and Solo are, that wouldn't have happened. But he's not being protected. They don't see him as a big deal. He's just another guy in the group, which is fine. That's probably an accurate use of him, but it does sort of confirm, I guess, having him go out first before Tongaloa. Yeah, I mean, So, yeah. All right, then. Well, would you like to see more of these 5-on-5 matches, either at Survivor Series or in the lead up to Survivor Series, or just in general? Is there a way to utilize this match format?
Well, I mean, since you already have the War Games match, are going to take up like the majority of your runtime on a actual Survivor Series. I actually like the idea of this SmackDown is basically the pre-show for Survivor Series, so I'm perfectly happy this to be the main event for the show beforehand. And it's also something I'd like to maybe they use on SummerSlam or WrestleMania, since they kind of got to get everybody in there, and you could actually work, several storylines that you're not ready to blow off at WrestleMania and just have the various arcs kind of like tie into one of those as like an early, like in between match, one where with people that, and granted, I'm not saying like a big time, like you have, this is more mid-tier people. I'm not talking about like high level tier, but like like the low stories like that you're running where you could have someone be pinned in like 5 minutes, that sort of thing. I wouldn't mind that just as something to shake things up at WrestleMania and stuff. But overall, like building to a big one on the show before before the actual Survivor Series is a nice thing to do.
My answer to my own question, and I don't know if it's an answer, but it addresses it, is right now we have Blood and Guts and War Games and what NXT is doing, like this idea that the way to settle a score is through this gimmick, a gimmick match where violence is promised and there's cages and apparatus and weapons and vows of blood and all that. And there's something to be said for dialing it back a bit, and it would take a little while to have it land with this generation of wrestling fans. But the idea of like just wrestling and trying to beat each other with your moves and the novelty of, especially in a 5-on-5 situation that isn't a War Games, but instead it's not submit or surrender and all that stuff. It's just a match. Like, why not go back to that being what counts? We didn't have an Ilya Dragunov U.S. title open challenge this week because he wrestled last week, and this show was taped last week, right after last week's live show. But I advocated for stop trying to turn every Dragunov match into a blood feud or rivalry with huge backstory or a match that leads to some sort of angle. Just have a match for the U.S. title where the story, the justification for it is, it's a novel matchup with a challenger who you're invested in and a champion who you want to see win for the most part. I think vast majority are rooting for Dragunov, and have them wrestle for a prize that matters. And then the outcome itself is enough. And I don't think bookers for years have given enough to that being enough in their mindset when they book. And if that is the mindset of the booker, I think it will come through in the announcing and the storytelling. And that's one thing that's sort of refreshing about this 5-on-5 match format-wise, is we're not going to see someone take out a staple gun. We're not going to see somebody with a kendo stick or blading or bleeding. And some fans will be like, well, then I don't care about it. And it's like, well, what are you watching pro wrestling for? If wrestlers doing wrestling moves in a ring with an outcome where you're cheering a kick out if the babyface kicks out and rooting for pins, why can't that be enough as long as the structure is there to make the match outcomes matter, and just the entertainment and novelty of seeing, again, in a 5-on-5, like we talked about, novel one-on-one matchups, even if they're brief, occur. So I think bookers underestimate how much wrestling fans are willing to be fans of wrestling without gimmicks, without cages, without structures, without all the gimmickry. And if you kind of get back to the fundamentals, you'll pay, by definition, Javier, more attention to the fundamentals. You'll care more about the babyface heel dynamic instead of whatever they're doing with Jade right now. And you will have titles that become your focus. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's what you're talking about. everything you're talking about the 5-on-5 match. I was thinking about the actual John Cena tournament, because I think this is one of the better tournaments we've seen in a while, because there hasn't really been a lot of there have been mostly clean finishes. There hasn't been really a lot of shenanigans going on, with like one exception. I think it's the best of my memory. But in general, it's been a clean tournament, and it's for a goal, and everybody wants the goal of retiring John Cena. Like, you could do that with a title, you know? They actually accidentally made not accidentally, it's purposeful, but they made who gets to finish John Cena more important than the title sometimes.
Absolutely.
So so you could do that for that. I mean, it's there. I mean, and the fact that you get like people like Rusev jobbing clean, that's or losing clean. I'm gonna say job is
what in Javier, what you said is pertinent, but I want to dig a little bit deeper here. Is it possible to not have a legendary mega star of this generation like John Cena and earning the right to face him for the last time? That's a pretty big deal, as you said, and to fight for. Can you make the U.S. title something worth fighting for? Can you make the pride of victory in a 5-on-5 match, not randomly assembled, but with factions or alliances where the bragging rights matter? Can you make that feel important enough to fans where you don't need the stakes of being John Cena's final opponent ever, or just tune in for violence for the sake of violence, which is kind of AEW's unfortunate default mode a lot of the time? It's, Samoa Joe and Hangman in their build to their world title match. It wasn't, Joe's promos did not center around what it will do to change the landscape of AEW if he becomes a champion and he gains all the clout that comes with that. Instead, it was, I am going to unleash violence on you. And Hangman is like, you will never stand up again. I will end your career with the most, whatever. I mean, their language is so, it's just about over the top. And then Excalibur goes, oh my God, it's going to be so violent. They're talking about violence constantly instead of pride or championships or the stake that, the stakes like a contendership match. And you can just eventually just convince the wrestling viewers, oh yeah, nothing matters except just violence or stakes so high, like a WrestleMania main event for the Rumble or John Cena's last match. Dial it back. Just start doing what it takes to make the simple stuff matter more, and then everything becomes more efficient and easier, and you don't need all this other stuff. And then when you do it, I'm not against doing it. I'm for doing it when it matters. Derek Mitchell points out the War Games in 1987 was originally designed to put a stop to the Horsemen, but as the matches have gone on, there's no real incentives for the outcomes of these matches. There's no defined stakes. As he says, there's zero incentive with these matches. Blood and Guts doesn't solve anything. War Games doesn't solve anything. Maybe you have some incentives like a title shot for the person who gets the pin. That goes a little against what I'm arguing for, Derek, because to me, winning War Games should be enough. Like, everyone's looking for something else. Why can't the outcome be enough? I know it's not like the NFL where the outcome of a game improves your place in the standings. But there are times where there's a team out of the playoffs playing a rival, and it's the pride of being a spoiler, or the pride of ending a losing streak, or historically, the Bears and Packers have played each other how many hundreds of times, and they're practically tied. And this, like, there's things you can draw from where every match the fans have been trained, and Derek's been watching long enough. He knows that this was at a time, just the pride of winning was enough. You didn't need to add something else. And even Derek has fallen into that, where he's saying, I don't care about War Games because there isn't something attached to it like the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber have. That's what I'm advocating for. Let's dial it back and have the actual outcome of the match itself be enough to get people caring. And they've just thrown in the towel on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, back when you had the regular Survivor Series, I know, I'll let you say this because you follow the actual number parts of it. But with the, I was one of the ones who actually, Survivor Series was one of my favorite ones because you ended up having all these people like, Hogan and his allies versus, Bobby Heenan's team kind of situation where it's like, you want to see, the most you really ever got in terms of like the reward is like if the babyface team, they get 5 minutes alone with Heyman. Or whoever the manager was, something light like that, which is just an extension of the whole pride and punishing the heel. But like the majority of the other matches that you would have on the card were just pride, who has the better friends, that kind of thing. That's what I dug, and I think that Today, you'd probably be able to do a Survivor Series that's nothing but Survivor Series matches and have it be more successful than it would have been back in those days. So, because I think people more care about the wrestling and that aspect of it, and than they do about the extra hoopla.
And think about the "you tapped out" chants. Like, that's good. You're taunting a heel with a chant that isn't about violence or trying to being killed or losing a title or anything like that. It's the outcome was the taunt. You tapped out. You should be humiliated. So you can have the heel team go, you're never going to make us submit. We're not going to submit. And then when they submit, it's the baby faces and the fans delight in it and brag about it. There's just sort of this desperation to underline everything, make everything a larger font, add exclamation marks. Three is enough. Let's do 5 at the end of every match. And sometimes just let the match be the match and let the outcome define the outcome. Have the mindset as a booker and wrestlers that winning a 3 count and a submission, and yes, even a count out, that's enough. It's not about ending your career all the time. It's not about yelling about how your family will never recognize you. Like, this language is so over the top, fans just get numb to it. And then it's sort of like if you drink soda all the time, then an apple doesn't taste good. But if you quit soda for a month, apple is amazing. It hits that sweet spot because you haven't dulled your taste buds to something that is unnaturally super sweet and instantaneously gives you that dopamine rush. The apple, as I'm advocating for apple, but it has the fiber. But if you're not eating anything sweet, you're going to crave carrots. I remember Sean Waltman once telling me, "Wait, I gave up sugar," and how carrots are like a treat, like a candy bar. It's like my food analogy applies to wrestling. Take away all this nonsense about just endless violence, endless over the top stipulations, and just make a carrot or an apple taste like a treat again, like a pinfall or a submission, and the pride of victory. So I saw this match as sort of an excuse to kind of make that case because it's a juxtaposition with what we're getting tomorrow and what we got a week and a half ago on AEW TV with Blood and Guts, where it's just, and even Joe and Hangman, where all the build is just, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to maim you, I'm going to end you, and the announcer, it's going to be so violent. There's a title on the line. Let the title be the thing. Let the pride of victory. Stop selling us, and we're going to see some near-death experience and crazy blood, and it's a message to Tony Khan to dial it back too. I think fans don't understand. They're drinking soda constantly, and how good an apple would taste if they watched a product that cut out that the sugary soda version of pro wrestling.
It's funny that you mentioned the Samoa Joe Hangman thing. I mentioned earlier I haven't been really watching AEW, but the fact that you say that it was all about I'm going to kill you, that would have been the perfect feud to basically just be about who's better. Because that's Joe's thing. Plus, they were just on the same side against Moxley, which was about all the blood and guts, and I want to maim you and destroy you and your career because that's the only way you survive in this business. That was fine for that storyline. You didn't need to take Hangman to this level. Hangman's not really. I mean, I know that his death matches with Swerve got over, but you don't have to force Hangman Page into the Swerve, murder, death, kill angle. And yeah, so I see. Like I love the Gunther stuff because Gunther makes stuff very personal, but he does it in a way to get underneath the skin of his opponent to force him to make a mistake. And yeah, you could up the violence because the opponent is very into it. But by the end of the match, it's not about killing your opponent; it's about proving Gunther right or wrong. So that's
totally.
Yeah.
And a couple episodes ago on Dynamite, leading into the pay-per-view. The show closing scene, was Joe and Hangman glaring at each other. And Hangman goes, "Remember last time what I did when I was locked in a cage with another man? I'll do it again if I have to." And Excalibur says both men are capable of incredible levels of violence. And that was the selling point. Incredible levels of violence. When you could be saying, how will the face of AEW change if Samoa Joe takes a title away from Hangman Page? And I compared it to elections. That's what inspires people to vote, is they're scared of what will happen to themselves, their lives, their rights, their pocketbooks, or whatever. They're made to be scared of some boogeyman out there to distract from, to get people to vote for politicians who don't have their best interests in mind by making them scared of other people. And that's a big tactic. But people vote based on that incentive. That's what gets, so you could just go, hey, what will happen to AEW if you're an AEW fan, and how will Hangman deal with losing the title so quickly? I mean, and they didn't tell that story. Just get back to that. I just think everything will be more satisfying in a surprising way. Like this notion you can't sell a pay-per-view unless there's a ton of gimmick matches on it is an indictment of a lack of discipline of booking. And frankly, I thought Paul Levesque would be better than that. Although I know he's just kind of following this War Games tradition. But anyway, point made. Go ahead.
War Games is one of those matches where I don't like the fact that it's the scheduled one, because or like Hell in a Cell used to be. They removed Hell in a Cell for that reason.
Yep.
So the Hell in a Cell could be used when a feud calls for it.
Yep.
War Games should be the same, done the same way. The only violent match that actually works is Elimination Chamber because it's a elimination match.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's pause and introduce ourselves. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Friday, November 28th, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter and the website PWTorch.com, and the host of a variety of VIP exclusive podcasts, including the new Wade Keller News Bulletin audio versions. We also have a PDF and all text version with insider scoops, analysis of a top story that's on my mind and in the news that week or that day, along with some news and notes, and also my end notes with random thoughts on a variety of topics. So go VIP to check that out. We do have our sale going on. Get full details on what comes with VIP membership and that sale, and bring a $12.99 monthly subscription down to just $3.99 for the first month. So take $9 off with coupon code NOV2025, NOV as in November, NOV 2025. Take $9 off any sub, a 1 month, 3 month, or 12-month sub. That is our current sale. And it gives you a chance to try for less than $4 a full month. And that $4 isn't just a month of new stuff. It's nearly 40 years of what we've been doing since we launched Pro Wrestling Torch, and have created an incredible library of assets in terms of audio, retro radio shows, hundreds of them from the 90s. Just fascinating to look back at how I and others covered wrestling in a pre-podcast era, but an audio format on the radio, along with over 2 decades of VIP podcasts, post-pay-per-view roundtables. You can listen to all our Survivor Series roundtables if you want to binge that this weekend on demand in our library. An ad-free website, new content, as I said all the time, VIP exclusive podcasts that are not offered to the general public. And also, by the way, all our free shows that have commercials in them, all those commercials are taken out. So you get a streamlined listening experience. So just one benefit stacked on top of the other, but mostly it's a way to be part of a community of people who might look at wrestling and examine it and are fascinated by it in a similar way to you. We're not, rah partisan fanboys and fangirls rooting for one team over another. We're not reactionary in terms of, just lashing out at people who we just want to understand what's going on. So we try to figure out not just what's happening, but also why it's happening, and understand larger historical trends, and look at the business side. And also, like I just did, kind of the philosophical side of how wrestling can be different based on what's worked in the past, and how it can maybe be more satisfying moving forward, and cause fewer injuries and leave people less numb, and perhaps bring more people into the big tent of what pro wrestling can be, who don't want to see cheese graters on skin, and people with thumbtacks sticking into their skin. I'm not against it happening now and then. I'm saying it's excessive, and we're getting numb to it, and it's a crutch for undisciplined booking. And so anyway, my plug straight into another editorial. I already covered that territory. I'm here with Javier Machado. He is a PWTorch contributor, and he is joining me here as co-host. Javier, part of a PWTorch daily cast, weekly show called Acknowledging WWE in the PWTorch daily cast lineup. It's a different show each day of the week with a different theme. We've got a show every week on AEW, NXT. Tomorrow night after Survivor Series, Saturday night, we'll have Wrestling Night in America with a live show right here on our PWTorch YouTube channel, reviewing the show. That will then be distributed as an audio podcast on our podcast feed. So check that out. We also have the indie scene covered with Wrestling Coast to Coast, the 90s Past Cast, which they're recording tonight. That'll go up this weekend. Looking back at a Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter from 30 years ago this week. So much cool stuff. That is all free, by the way. Just search PWTorch in your podcast app to subscribe. You, of course, are welcome and encouraged to go VIP, and you can get all the shows in one feed, or create a PWTorch Daily Cast feed, or even a PWTorch 90s Past Cast feed, for instance, on your phone. You can have as many feeds as you want, broken down by show or group of shows or themes, and to stay organized and listen to what you're in the mood for. The 90s Past Cast is a super fun show to binge. They're all evergreen because they just review Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter from 30 years ago that week. But when you go VIP, not only can you customize your feed, but you also have access to our full library, and those shows are commercial free. So lots of VIP benefits, and we encourage you to go VIP. For our YouTube viewers, the graphics on the screen, if you want to take advantage of that. Javier, what is on this week's Acknowledging WWE?
I am covering, previewing the tomorrow's War Games. So get it in if you want time. Watch it, listen to soon if you want the most timely thing. General predictions of what's going to go on and stuff like that. So so check it out.
Sweet. All right. Some chat comments encouraging people to go VIP. Appreciate that. All right. Let's we got a couple callers on hold. Couple familiar voices, including PWTorch contributor David Miller, and then Jason D from Australia on deck also. David, welcome. How is it going?
Pretty good, Wade. Thanks for having me, Javier.
Hi.
And one thing I know that's going on is I got a week off from Evolve this week, apparently. They skipped a show, but due to be back on track next Wednesday. As far as tonight's Smackdown goes, as far as go home shows, it was passable. I enjoyed the Miz's shenanigans as usual. He's always entertaining, and even though it's been seen before, I wouldn't have minded seeing Miz against Cena one more time, because I think those two could really tear the house down. But we'll see who that remains to be seen who that will be. The ladies match, Charlotte and Asuka, I thought that was very, very good. And anytime you have those two in the ring against one another, it's going to be good. And I'm glad that they mentioned the past history with the injury that took Charlotte out. It was also interesting seeing the Wyatt Six show up there at the very end. Kind of surprise there to me. I didn't expect that. I'm with you too, Wade. I'm not sure what they're doing with Jade Cargill. Is she a heel, or does she just not like anybody, or what's going on with that? I don't know. One thing else. Yeah,
let me pause you, because you're hitting a variety of topics I want to expand on a little bit. Let's start with the Jade Cargill thing. What do you think, Javier, of Jade Cargill going after Chelsea Green? Well, Chelsea Green is still doing the same heel act she's done. Now, I think I'll just say likely. I don't know if it's clear to everybody, but it's likely they're on a path to making Chelsea a babyface, because fans kind of enjoy her for whatever reason. And I'm not saying there aren't good reasons. Everyone has their own reason. But she's still a heel, and she's out there doing a heel promo. I mean, that was a heel. I'm just full of myself. I'm the greatest champion, not only of the United States, but all of the North Americas. And she's using this language that is what a heel would do, and just going on and on about herself. And then Jade comes out to her music and kicks ass, takes out Lyra, takes out Chelsea. It's a total babyface book sequence by Jade Cargill. She's the babyface shutting up the heel who's droning on and on. Except Jade just turned heel. And the goal is to get her to be booed, and they want Chelsea to be cheered. But I don't think the booking is helping that, even if people's inclination, despite the structure of what happened, even if people's inclination is to cheer Chelsea. So what in this just the even, and it's not like B-Fab and Michin are so beloved that if Jade shoots them a look, that everyone's like, oh, we want to see them beat up Jade now. I just don't think this is a way to get Jade over as a heel, is by having her go after initially someone who's still a heel. Even if it ends well, I think it's a bumpier journey with a headwind to get her fully booed. What do you think?
Yeah, I've got the feeling that they're heading down the gray scale with this one, and just have her be a badass and not really, which, considering the fact that I think ultimately the goal is to have her wrestle Charlotte, I think is a horrible idea. I think you'd rather her have Jade solidly in the boo her, she's a heel category, as opposed to, yeah, she's a tough badass that she might do some stuff we don't like, but overall we're going to cheer her because she's a badass and not because she's done anything specifically wrong. I think that's not the way. I was fine with her side-eyeing Chelsea Green, because Chelsea Green was saying I'm the best, and I'm fine with the her showing up and saying really you're the best. I was fine with that to a point, but when it became a physicality, beating up Chelsea Green, and like you said, had she been like more, I know she's beloved. Her heel gimmick is more like let's laugh along with her kind of scenario, but it wasn't really set up in the way of we want to see more of her continuing on this with this entertaining spiel that she was going on. Because it was meant to be more like boring and abrasive, and you want her to shut up, and they basically had Jade shut her up. It really weird booking. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish, because I think all they accomplished was making Jade look like a badass. So, and again, that I consider the fact that the work that they're doing with Charlotte is try to get her to be a beloved babyface, try to be more like herself. In order for her to be the babyface against Jade, that would work. But I mean, this is not this. The work they're doing on this side, I don't think is good. If that's the ultimate goal.
And Derek Hubbard in the chat says the dominant heel Jade destroying the lovable heel Chelsea is not the worst idea. Jade can destroy Chelsea and her minions until the end of the year. It'll make Chelsea a sympathetic face. My argument is this should not be Jade's first feud as a heel. I mean, to get somebody over as a heel, they shouldn't just do their babyface act. And Jade was badass, and fans cheer badasses who destroy wrestlers. And she's out there being a badass. It's one of the reasons fans are barking for Braun Breaker, despite him, he's sort of positioned in classic Paul Levesque way of using ambiguity to create ambivalence and then claim that you're reinventing a wheel that didn't need to be reinvented in terms of the heel-face dynamic, just because you want to be modern and seem like you're putting your mark on the business. But with Jade, I mean, let's let her have a couple feuds against people who fans like first, and then utilize once she's firmly established as a heel, and Chelsea's further down the line of being a babyface, then have the tipping point for Chelsea being Jade being a bully. But Chelsea was going on and on about herself. And again, that's set aside the fact that, well, people like her no matter what. Okay. But that was a traditional heel promo droning on in a self-centered, self-absorbed way. That's just, it's the wrong time to do this. And I disagree with you, Javier, that it was okay that she was side-eyeing Chelsea in the context of Jade having just turned and it being the only person she was. If Jade's just out there being a, sort of a bully and a jerk to a bunch of people, faces and heels, I'd still have an issue with it if she had just turned, because you don't want to put fans in a position to have to decide whether they really don't like her after all, because now she's putting some of these heels in their place and acting badass in front of them. The timing just seems off and seems to lack any fundamental understanding of how you get heat on a heel right after a heel turn. It's not by having them be the badass who destroys everybody. Fans naturally are inclined to cheer that, nor does it mean going after a heel who hasn't turned yet and is only about 30% of the way there.
The first time was fine with it because there were at that point two heels, and one was the gimmicky heel saying I'm the best, and then the other one's like, no, I'm the best, and the other one's like backed up, yeah, okay, you are the best. When they did the second week, now it became more like a running gag. And I think you don't, at that point, you kind of now like not taking the Jade character as seriously because she's in that running gag thing. And then this third time with her beating it up, now you're like saying, and to the point that was made, I want to bring up, like, when you do that, you attack Chelsea Green to turn Chelsea Green babyface. Look at the Jericho and KO when even though everyone was cheering them, they were still playing the heel role with the whole list thing. And then it was in the Festival of Friendship where, that's what turned Jericho babyface when KO turned on him. They're not there with Chelsea Green, particularly. And
they're not there with Jade as a heel.
Yeah. So they're not there yet. So that's what makes that's what makes the two moments different. I mentioned on my podcast that what Jade needs to do once the War Games is over is she needs to get into a feud with Alexa Bliss, where she badly hurts Alexa Bliss in a kick the dog moment, where the villain just does something to someone innocent, so then the other babyface could come in, because then you'll get the people want Charlotte to get revenge because she hurt her friend. Jade hurt her friend. That's how you build that character. But this kind of feels like they're like, oh, we're going to do this just to kill time while that story's going on. Mm-hmm. And I think you'd be better off her just like cutting a heel promo than doing what they did today.
David, you brought up what other 2 points did you bring up before I cut you off or paused you?
Well, one thing I kind of want to backtrack on a little bit is, the ultimate goal of a heel in classic heel philosophy is for the fans to hate you, to legitimately hate you. Now, that's where they need to be. They don't have to go that way with Chelsea Green. They don't have to, because she is not taken seriously. Even though she's a champion, nobody takes her seriously because everyone knows that she is all mouth. And that's what she's supposed to be. And that's why she is so good at it. And that's why, and so the people cheer because they don't take her seriously as a heel. Jade Cargill, she's got this look. She needs to be a monster heel. And so, yeah, they need that with her. But,
David, you were around long enough. You know the Road Warriors were heels, and they were so badass and so destructive against babyface acts that I watched in the AWA. The fabulous ones were a red hot babyface tag team. They were part of that trend with Rock and Roll Express, later the Midnight Rockers, the Von Erichs, the Fantastics. They were and they were supposed to be a draw in the AWA. And then the Road Warriors as heels faced them, and the fans were cheering the badass Road Warriors, and it destroyed the fabulous ones as draws in the AWA. Paul Levesque,
Steve Austin turned babyface.
Yes. Yep. So, Paul Levesque I thought he was a student of history, and he's overseeing everything going on here. He ought to be. If other people are doing this and he's just not paying attention, then he needs to intervene. If this is his idea and his philosophy, I'm just surprised. There's so much history to draw from, where, to me, like, the worst bookers in wrestling are the ones who repeat ideas because they remember what happened at the end, but they don't take into account the context that made it work in the months of storytelling that led to that moment working. They just want to recreate the moment that worked at the end. And there's a little bit of that maybe seeping into Levesque's approach to things, and it's shocking to me. I would have thought if anybody was like, Levesque's a guy who I think would be lecturing people on, you can't just do that because back in the day when this worked, here's what they did for a year and a half leading up to it, and here's what's different today than back then, and we need to set the table better for this to work the way that it did in 1978 or 1987 or 2002, whatever it is. And the argument being made in the chat right now is they don't have anyone for Jade to beat who's a babyface, a mid-level babyface. Derek said that. And Derek Hubbard and Derek Mitchell. Sorry, I'm with two Dereks right now, saying that. And so, that's a problem, but that's something you should plan for. But I don't think you just go, well, we'll just skip that step because we don't have anyone who can play that role. You can create one in 3 weeks. Just call someone up from NXT, make him sympathetic, and have Jade be the bully who almost perhaps ends her career before it gets started. And then she goes after Chelsea, and maybe then it's more clear. Okay, Jade's definitely the heel here.
Yeah,
do that with a few people.
Yeah,
go ahead, Javier. Yep.
Yeah, because I said that on my podcast when Jade won the title, because that was the immediate first thing I said is like, who are the list of the babyfaces? Because I couldn't remember off the top of my head who the babyfaces of SmackDown were. I know Alexa Bliss and Charlotte were on that side, but I knew they were involved in the tag team. And then when I looked down the roster, the top two is Michin and BFAB, and I'm like, oh, that is not good.
No,
that is not a good people to keep track. Because obviously they're setting up Charlotte. They've already crossed paths a few times. I think we can all agree on that one. But to bide time to when this whole stuff between Alexa and Charlotte is done, I'm like, wow, that's okay. She could kill both of those women, but then who's next? I guess you finish fast enough. You have Alexa Bliss next, tide that over. But yeah, then taking this detour to Chelsea without turning Chelsea needed to be babyface already for this to have worked.
Azan says Jada Parker would be perfect for that spot, or turn Julia face. Those are Azan's suggestions. Yeah. All right, David, back to you.
No, I'd also mention, I'm not sure what you were referring to. I did mention, obviously the Charlotte Asuka match, and then the White Six showing up at the very end of the show. Yeah,
thank you, David. The White Six, they have been teasing White Six and Solo, which is establishing, presumably, although who knows with Paul Levesque's booking of ambiguity that creates ambivalence is my trademark, is the secret sauce to his booking right now. but I assume this means the Wyatt Six are now baby faces against Solo Sikoa. But again, I don't say that with confidence because I think he's losing his way by having like the Wyatt Six. There's times they cut a promo. It seems like I listen carefully to the wording. It's like, okay, that's a babyface message. And then they go out and attack baby faces in some jumbled multi-tag team situation. You're like, well, maybe no one's paying attention or I misread that. What do you think is going on with the Wyatt Six, Javier, at this stage, and can it work? And then we'll get David's thoughts on what you said. Our podcast audience missed a big shoulder shrug. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought the Wyatt Six were out of the picture because I thought that this match was being set up for two members of the Wyatt Six to be on the team against instead of the Motor City Machine Guns. So when the Motor City Machine Guns were put in, I'm like, first off, that's kind of odd. And they kind of feel like added in last minute. Is there some sort of issue with Wyatt Six? Have they gotten cold feet? Are they pulling away? Are there like visa issues? I don't know. Something's going on. So which I was also surprised because like once the show was the solo was set, I started getting ready for the post show, and then like all of a sudden I hear like commotion on the TV. I'm like, oh, I had to go back and rewind because I was not expecting this to happen. As to what, I don't know. One way that the not clear babyface thing could work is if it's a group that has a set goal, and that goal can be put them up against a babyface or heel. Like I'm not even gonna spitball right now. My brain's too tired to actually come up with a goal where it could work. But if someone had like a specific goal they're working to, and both babyfaces are an impediment to it, that could work if you want to have them, facing both sides, because then you're just focused on what the goal is, whether you want them to achieve the goal or not. But that is not what this is, because we don't know what the Wyatt Six goals are. Yeah. We don't know why, they're attacking the baby faces. I don't, are they supposed to be like Moxley's group lights, where they just want to beat everybody up and not really care on who's whether you're babyface or not? If that's boring, that's dumb. Yeah. I don't know where they are yet, because even when they do promos, I'm like, they haven't really set what their goals are. So
I agree. They've been creatively abandoned. There's been, I think Bo Dallas was away because of his dad having some issues, health issues. There were injuries. There's been a lot of things that weren't like the fault of just the creative team just losing track or forgetting about them. But I also think when they do have access to them, there hasn't been anything that answered the questions you're posing, which is, what is their mission? Who are they? They're just, they're a derivative of a prior idea that had a genius performer in Bray Wyatt. And I don't mean genius like he was ultimately very effective compared to some other people he gets compared to, but he was iconic. He was memorable. And clearly he put a ton of thought into what he was doing. Even if Paul Levesque got frustrated because he'd show up after 2 weeks away and go, I got a whole new idea how to rework everything. I mean, it was hard to work with him for a variety of reasons when he would just go into his own world and come out of it with a new idea and then try to shake everything up. But there was a mad genius in there that needed to be edited and reined in. I don't sense there's that level of creativity. This just feels like, well, do we have an obligation to create a derivative version of the Wyatt family? And I think you got to make it its own thing, or improve upon the original. And they're not doing either. It doesn't seem like the effort is there, or the clarity is there. So it's all about just the music and the mask and this, motley eclectic crew, and it's all just veneer. But it doesn't resonate, and it's a weakness this year. That group could have meant more, even with some of the obstacles that they had. David, your thought? Oh, go ahead, Javier. Sorry.
The most amount of work they've done with them is that they've told us that they're a group of people who have been forgotten, and then they just forget about them.
I know. Yes, exactly.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, what does that mean? Because we haven't gotten what that means yet, and how they're going, what their goals are to not be forgotten in the future. So that's where I think that the booking, the storytelling element is missing from that group. And I mean, it's been a while now that they've been around. So I've basically checked out until you do something to win my attention back.
And Sadler version 3 goes, I forgot the Wyatts were basically heels in their last feud. I have no idea what they're doing. with them. Azan says, yeah, they're taking the whole tag division down. Powder River Pete goes, we don't need another gray area wrestlers. I hope not. Derek Hubbard says, I'd like to see the Wyatt Six come to the aid of Sammy against the MFTs to solidify them on the babyface side. And let's see, there's another. Azan just goes, the former tag champs Wyatts don't get a lot of TV time. And Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy can't be the same person. I don't know exactly what Azan means by that. They can be because, Bray Wyatt and The Fiend were, but they were distinct, it was whatever, like Mick Foley, multiple personalities. You can do that, but you have to dedicate yourself to really doing it. You can't have it be this thing that shows up for 2 weeks out of every 12 weeks, and then they abandon it, and then they are this ambiguous character, face, heel, contextual. They don't really stand for anything that's really clear, and then they disappear again. I mean, there's just no way to get people invested in this group the way that they're doing it. They'll take their phones out. Ooh, lights are out. We'll pop for that, but that doesn't mean that you're doing a good job booking or that they're selling any tickets. David.
Yeah, I want to make a comparison. I think they're making the same mistake with the White Six that they're making with Dark State in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Dark State, for instance, when they first came out in NXT, they started to have some little vignettes that told something a little bit about each one of them, what their background was, where they came from, and they actually started to feel for a moment like they were actually starting to have identities, because for the longest time I didn't know one of them from the other, and at this point it's getting that way again because they kind of dropped that and they kind of just forgot about that. You can't just do that once and have it sink in. And again, I'm going to go back to another show. I'm going to go back to Evolve there's a wrestler on Evolve. His name escapes me right now, but they've been doing these vignettes on him a little bit every week, and it keeps it fresh in your mind. They did that same thing with the White Six at the beginning. They had them talking. They had Eric talking about Eric Rowan, talking about who he was and how he felt left behind, all this stuff. But then they kind of dropped that, and now they just like, okay, we did it once, now that's enough. Everyone's going to remember all this, and everyone's going to stay emotionally invested in this team because we know, now we know what they're all about. Well, no, you got to keep, giving a little bit of that now and then. Just showing up every once in a while to destroy somebody. I mean, why?
Yeah.
Why are they doing it? And what's their goal here? We've not heard anything from them except, they just show up and beat people up. You need more than that.
Yep, you do.
There's more than storytelling to just that.
Javier, anything you want to add? Because it shows what David just lays out is this is not it's not just happening in one place within the WWE ecosystem.
Well, and what David said about storytelling, it's not just storytelling; it's episodic storytelling. Because comics, wrestling, and like soap operas that are like ongoing forever run into the same thing. Anime also that go on forever run into the same thing, where sometimes there's a thread to episodic content. So if they disappear for a long period of time, where that happens in comics, where writers are late, so then a run that you're really excited for starts coming out, instead of being every monthly, it starts becoming, once every 3 months or like a year. It might end up being great, but it hurts as you're trying to read it as it's going on. Wyatts are there where you have the situation where you have they get a little bit and then they disappear from TV for a while, outside of maybe seeing Nikki Cross in the background or something. So outside of that, there's nothing to keep the thread of why we should care about them. Same thing with anime. Sometimes anime get delayed and you only get like 2 episodes back to back, and then you get like one like a month later. So, and that disrupts the actual flow that you have from some of these characters. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it happens because of injury, and you can't, it's because that's the nature of what they're doing. But, at some point, if it happens a long period of time, there's like no salvaging it.
David, what else have you got for us?
No, that's it. I won't take up any more time. I know you got other people waiting, so appreciate you guys having me on, and see you soon.
Sounds good, David. Thanks. Yeah. Check out David's reports on Evolve, as he mentioned, and also NXT at our website, PWTorch.com. David, have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
You bet. Always great when David stops in. All right, let's go to Jason D from Australia. Jason, thanks for holding. What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, no problem, Wade and Javier. Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, with this war, I'm not sure if I'm agreeing or disagreeing with you here, Wade, but with this whole war games, right, fundamentally calling it war games, I don't like the fact that there are no stakes involved with this, because if you are going to war, there should be something on the line here.
Winning.
And they haven't. That's not enough.
The pride of winning. Well, but that's my point. Dial it back so it is. That used to be everything.
No, but see, I can't. Even though I can't buy into that, pride is not enough. Like, to me, there has to be something on the line here. Now, I'm talking about if you're going to war. If you're going to war, if two countries are going to war, right? One country's going to take over the other. That's massive stakes. Or two kingdoms. Well, I'm going to take over your kingdom, armies, whatever. What is on the line with this? And it's not just that, it's the match where the war games doesn't begin until everyone's in the ring, which means that whatever everyone else did beforehand counts for nothing. So you could theoretically do this elimination style, but you couldn't do it in this match because you've got too many main eventers and you don't want them taking pins, right? So this, to me, fundamentally, there's two issues with that. It's the structure of the match where everything that happens prior to everyone else coming in counts for nothing. And then there's no stakes on the line. Like, I need stakes in a match that is called war games. What is on the line here? That's what I'm fundamentally against.
So, like, if there's two dogs at a dog park that meet and they just start growling and biting and rolling around, the stakes are who's going to be the alpha. And there'll be an understanding afterwards who is. The team that wins war games shows up next week on TV, and if it's the heels, they put the baby faces in their place. The baby faces kind of have to retreat a bit because they got beat in war games. And then in the booking should then have another bigger, better babyface showing up or a fresh babyface to show up. So you could have like Obafemi be that guy if you had something set up where the heels are dominating and the faces don't have the army to battle them. Then suddenly somebody new shows up or somebody new steps up. Now you have it. So the stakes of war games are a sophisticated booker tells the story that the heels proved their dominance because they won war games by forcing the babyface team, a member, to submit. Or vice versa, the other way around. The heels have to regroup after they lose. This idea that stakes are only a trinket belt or some stipulation that gives you a future title shot or whatever else you're thinking of, Jason, to me, that's a defeatist attitude, throwing your hands up and going, the system is so broken that a win or a loss and the pride of a win or a loss can't be enough for fans to be invested, even in war games. I don't think that changes it that much for me. I think it's still in that realm. It's about the pride of victory and the bragging rights. And if everyone agrees to it, dogs at a dog park agree to it. It's instinctively embedded in them. You decide who the alpha is based on who retreats during a scuffle. And that's natural. People shouldn't freak out at dog parks when it happens, as long as it's, you can freak out if there's blood and all that. But dogs have to work it out. That's how they've done it for all of time. And so that can be enough. And winning a match, and this is my whole argument, this whole show, the theme of the show, Jason, is stop giving in to the last 25 years of destructive booking. It is not the way it has to be just because it's been that way, and it's almost worse than ever right now.
I get that. Look, your argument makes sense that this was Braun Breaker versus
Thanks,
Jey
Jason.
Uso.
Good talking to you. Oh, wait. I wanted to end on that note. Go ahead. Sorry.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, okay.
Right. I get your argument makes sense if it's Braun Breaker versus Jey Uso on Raw and there's nothing really on the line, right? It's just Raw. Whoever wins is the alpha on that particular night.
That's what's on the line. Stop saying nothing's on the line because language counts. There is something on the line. Yeah.
But I'm talking war games. I'm talking it specific to this pay-per-view.
You said nothing's on the line with Jey and Braun, and I don't think we should use that language because it's self-defeating to the point I think you're making.
Yeah, you're getting me on a technicality. What I mean is what is on the line is what you talked about. Who gets the bragging rights for that particular night? So yes, technically there is something on the line, but something greater on the line should be more when it's war games. That's what I'm saying. Now, the way they kind of get out of it is they tell a story coming out of it. So, for example, they've been teasing a Jey Uso turn. If something happens in this match, he gets frustrated with his brother or someone else. That kind of makes up for the fact that there's no stakes, quote unquote. They're going to tell a story coming out of it. That kind of makes out for it. Or a couple of years ago, CM Punk made his big return, and that's all people were talking about. So they can get away with it there. I'm just fundamentally against going to war and having nothing stipulated. That something to me has to be on the line more than just pride.
But the wrestlers,
to war.
the wrestler, I wouldn't get hung up on the term war like literally. I mean, it's a gimmick
Well, I
match.
do. It's war games. Like we're going and we're assembling a team. So why are we doing this for? Like,
That's what I'm about to say. I'm about to answer that question. Then I'll throw to you, Javier. War games should not happen because it's November. War games should happen because there's a bill that organically has led to two groups who cannot settle through a normal match, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 with a pinfall or submission. That the rivalry has reached a point where the only way to settle it is to get everybody inside a cage. And again, there's so much destruction with, we got to get Powerhouse Hobbs over as being really strong, so we'll have him break a chain. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, is Hobbs really worth ruining the entire concept of, and not, it's already so greatly damaged, but like continuing to reinforce the death of the notion that when a cage is locked, no getting in, no getting out. That was in all the original videos. Once the door is locked, and then like, oh, we're going to have a fun little spot that a fourth grader thought of. Wouldn't it be cool if Powerhouse Hobbs broke a chain? And I know it's not the first one to do it, but again, it's that fourth grade mentality of wouldn't it be cool if, without any eye on the big picture protecting the concept. The concept shouldn't be a November event, Jason. It should be something that happens organically because there are two factions who need to settle the score inside a double cage. And it's a double cage because there's 10 people and one ring isn't enough to contain them. Don't make it a playground. Don't sell it as a playground. Sell it as a double cage with a roof where no one can get in, no one can get out, and spend the next 20 years establishing that that is true by booking it to be true. And the stakes are the losers hang their head and can't show their face again for a while. And they're and going in, both teams say there's no way I'm going to lose this one. There's no way I can show up and show my face if I lose to you guys in this match. I just think you're selling it short and ignoring a history of it working by saying we have to have a title, or because the word war is in it, it has to, someone has to like chop their hand off afterwards or leave town forever. I don't even know what you're getting at. That the stake would be higher than, my God, we won War Games. We proved our dominance.
And
well, the thing is, because I was actually reading some comments about the War Games idea, is that the problem with the War Games as it's being used today, as it's being used as every November now, it's Survivor Series, so we got to do the War Games match, is that this version of War Games does not act as an end to a feud. It's just a way that you're going through a feud. So it only works from a storytelling perspective, and there is no finish in terms of, the whole pride aspect. Because it's not like, because this, for example, this would have been, God, we're going back to AEW, but this would have been like perfect way to end a feud like with the Moxley group, because they have a stranglehold on the company. And you go into War Games to beat them out of it, and then even once he's already lost the title, and this kicks them off the show. This War Games kicks them off the show. So then that's kind of like your reward. That's when the pride comes in. The problem is that after this, this War Games is going to happen, and after that, you're going to still have CM Punk versus Logan Paul. So this is just a step on that. You're going to have a thing with the Bloodlines with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns and stuff that's going on there. Further storyline of a bunch of stuff. This is more like a center of like a bunch of different storylines coming together into a knot, which are then going to go off in their separate directions. So with this version of War Games, there is no prize at the end of it. It's just, we're going to have a bunch of people beat each other up. And even then, the pride issue doesn't really come into play, just because it could, if they booked it and said, hey, this guy, was the guy who took the pin, and I think they might end up doing that, because I think we're end up seeing is issues with Lesnar and the Vision, because there's going to be, fallout of that. But this just feels like an event to throw a grenade into the way, where there's no real end to it. And I kind of get that it's booked, War Games is booked as like the match to end all matches. But if it's not the end, it's kind of part of I think that's kind of like where like the disassociation of what War Games, the meaning behind War Games, I guess, to sound pretentious.
Yeah. And so much of this adding cages and gimmicks and stipulations and violence. I mean, it's like if you make soup out of really bad vegetable stock and you don't really add anything that has natural flavor, you just throw a bunch of salted MSG in it and call it flavorful. But if you make a soup the right way and you've got all these just savory, fresh herbs and and ingredients with natural umami, you don't need to throw in a bunch of salt to fake your way into its stimulating taste buds. Like, to me, good booking doesn't need a bunch of salt and MSG as a shortcut. And that's what, oh my God, it's going to be so violent. There's going to be blood. It's shortcut booking. And so is calendar booking of a War Games match where you're just wedging people in to force your way into something that happened to be on the calendar. Jason, I think what you're saying is reflective of the place we are. I am arguing to not have a defeatist attitude, that we have to be there. And there's no better time to start than now, by telling a better story leading into War Games, so that people are hooked on the winners. That they can't imagine the outcome. They can't imagine the fallout of somebody losing. And that is enough. And in fact, it's one of the biggest events of the year, that the Horsemen lose, or Dusty and his team lose, and the Road Warriors lose. Like, that should just be huge. But we've lost sight of the fact that you don't think, like, the Lions and Packers, like, yes, there's playoff ramifications and standings, but there's also just the pride of the Lions, this upstart team that's having great seasons, and the Packers are just this. I know I'm losing you, Jason. Sorry. And the Packers are maybe I'm not. This perennial really good team who now added an incredible high profile player from Dallas, and they became Super Bowl favorites. But Detroit's been the better team the last couple of years. The pride of just that game itself was as important as the standings. It was a moment of validation for Green Bay as the dominant team again, or validation of the Lions of, don't count us out yet, we're still that good. Tell that story. The NFL does it all the time naturally. Emulate that. It can still lead to other things, but you want the outcome in and of itself. You want that 28-24 score, 31-24 score to just sting the losing team and cause elation for days in the hometown market, the winning team's home market. And that can be a big part of pro wrestling. It's not about the violence. It's not about titles. It's not about artificial stipulations. That's like, some complicated, explanation you need Don West to read for 2.5 minutes.
I think you got me wrong here, because I pretty much agree with everything that Javier just said. Like, I like what he said, how this is just like it's not the end point. So if at the end of War Games, the Vision had to disband, and all right, there's massive stakes, but nothing's really, that's what I'm saying. That's my issue with it. Like, at least with the Elimination Chamber, there's something on the line, that the shot, and the King of the Ring, Money in the Bank, there's something on the line. I'll give them credit if they tell like major stories coming out of this, but I agree with what you were saying about AEW, where they didn't do enough to say, how's the face of AEW going to change if Samoa Joe wins the championship? I like that. There's something I can imagine a stakes there. I don't feel like they've illustrated enough stakes, even if it's not tangible, it's an intangible thing. Like, how are things going to change if the Vision defeats this all-star babyface team? Right. Even with the women, I'm agreeing with you. I think.
Real quick, they did that, and I don't think it landed as well as it could have, but they had that idea in mind for the WrestleMania match where Seth Rollins wins.
Yes.
It changes everything. They didn't articulate it well enough for me. It felt like a substitute for. It felt like kind of a late Hail Mary, like try to make the match feel important, because it didn't have the tangible stake that you are advocating for over and over again that you feel wrestling fans need. But to me, my argument, and I think you're begging the question if you say, well, Elimination Chamber and Royal Rumble have stakes and War Games doesn't. You're circling back to the thing that I'm fighting against, which is let winning War Games be as important as any championship win, be as important as winning a WrestleMania main event, as important as winning a loser leaves town match, as important as causing a team to have to disband. Just winning War Games itself should be almost like winning the Super Bowl. The NBA is trying to do that with the NBA Cup. They're trying to create this sort of secondary early season thing that matters, where every player gets $500,000. If they win, all the bench players do. Everyone's playing a little bit harder. It goes in the record book. Like let War Games in and of itself stop circling back to, but the Elimination Chamber is a title match at stake, and Rumble is a WrestleMania main event at stake. Let the end point be, we won War Games, and only do it when a feud naturally culminates. So that I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm underlining it because you when I say this, and you go back to going, yes, but the Elimination Chamber has stakes, and we need a title or some stakes. I'm like, the end point is winning War Games. That is a bragging right in and of itself worthy. You don't need the team to disband afterwards. You don't, it just is, but the key, I think we'd agree on, Jason, is you need that follow-up, which is you need the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. There have to be ramifications. That's what's upsetting about John Cena. So often, he lost to Cody Rhodes. What did he do the next week? Didn't mention Cody's name, didn't thank him for giving him a great match. He just moved to the next thing and acted like the title never mattered. And in fact, he said he was still the last real champion, even though he lost the belt. It was a big middle finger to everything he did to sell that match to fans. And it was a big middle finger to the rest of the locker room, on whether he did it maliciously or out of ignorance of the effect of it. That's not how you sell something. When he lost to Lesnar, he was way back. He was dead one week, and Vince goes, "Oh, we don't like that. We need Cena to look strong, or people will be sad." So he just came out and acted all fine the next week. That was, I disagreed with it at the time, and so you have to sell the ramifications of outcomes, and then people start caring about the outcomes when you sell them afterwards, Jason.
That's right. But that's where I agree with you. The ramifications, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like they have sold enough, even if it's not something tangible like a title shot or a title. What are the ramifications if the Vision win this, or if this all-star babyface team win? That's what
Agreed.
I want, because I'm fundamentally against wrestlers putting themselves in these violent matches and it being undersold. It's why I continue to not, and I try so hard to get into AEW, but I see guys bleeding all the time, and that's a little bit too much for me, even though I don't care. It's the fundamental thing that if you are going to put yourself in a situation where you are getting hurt, I need to see something out of this that's meaningful. So it's got to count for something, or else why are we doing this?
And I think we can agree on this, Jason. We don't need a stake established. The stakes established ahead of time as some sort of stipulation. They can never team together again. They can never appear on Raw again, or they'll never get a title shot again, or they lose a title, or they have to disband. Instead of saying stakes, let's say ramifications. You can establish it after the fact. You should have something ahead of time where it's just self-evident. The pride, the intensity of the rivalry, the thrill of victory and agony of defeat is self-evident. We don't even need to talk about it. The violence is self-evident. It's freaking War Games. Stop hitting us over the head with how violent it's going to be. We just know it is going to be because that's the match. But you want to sell it afterwards. There should be a big fallout from it. Again, I talk about elections in United States. That when your side loses, you think your world's going to fall apart. You think that the other side got conned into voting against their better interests, into special interest groups, or they got tricked into it, or their racist tendencies or their fear of other people led to people voting against their better interests, and they bought into a big con for people who don't have their best interests in mind, and people who are on the losing end of that think the country's going to be worse off. And they fear that. You can tap into that in wrestling storytelling. It resonates with people. They fear the outcome of elections going against them. Some don't vote and they think we're screwed either way. Others think we'll be fine either way. But the ones who really feel passionately think the world's going to change if they, for better or for worse, depending on the outcome. Tell that story. In pro wrestling, by after War Games, what happens this year does change the face of both groups, men and women. But again, you shouldn't be doing calendar booking because it's harder to do it because the organic manifestation of War Games being needed was forced into the timeline instead of happening naturally.
All right. Moving
Javier?
on there.
I saw Javier raise
Sorry,
his finger.
Javier. Go, buddy.
Yeah, and I think we'll end up getting more ramifications in the way that's going to be in the men's one, because there's a lot more stuff that could happen there with the volatile personalities that are in there. I think there will be less in the women's, because the women seem like particularly how it got together. I made fun of it, which is like, oh, I see 5 women or in this case 4 women together against 4 women. Hey, we got War Games coming up. Let's throw them in there. I think that's more, an indictment on how that one was booked, where I don't see, much coming out of that. The men's is going to be probably going to be a little bit different, because it's you do have a Jey Uso story that could develop in it, and you also have the Brock Lesnar factor that could come into play one way or the other. So and CM Punk is always like an explosion ready to happen. So we do have, like, I think it would be a more better. God,
More better.
I need a thesaurus. I'm sorry.
Well, so when you have the baby face, like the story of the men's War Games can be the baby faces have aligned against this dangerous, eclectic, Paul Heyman-led group who want power. They want to take over and run things. They want to dominate. And they want to dominate in a way that causes everyone to be scared and won't stand up for their own tactics. It's the authoritarian. It's the authoritarian plan. Also, the rule book of how to turn a country authoritarian. It's get people scared so they submit ahead of time, and you can tell that story, or comply, or comply ahead of time. You can tell that story in WWE that this Heyman group, they want to take over. Who knows what WWE's going to look for? But you also have this other story, which Javier is talking about, which is, but can these egos, and they kind of are in telling that story through implication, can Cody and Punk and Reigns get along? Are the Usos combustible? Because Roman is rude to the Usos, condescends Jay, but he's also family, and Cody's this stand-up good guy who, doesn't want to rock the boat, but will stand up for something. And then you got Punk, who's, just is what you tell each of their stories. You're like, can they coexist enough? So you create that sense of, can this coalition come together and stay together despite their competing interests because of their common enemy and the common cause against the Vision? And all of a sudden you go into this match with a sense of high stakes and jeopardy and concern that this coalition of good might not be able to work together as much as the Vision, who have this diabolical leader. I think that's a compelling story, and I think they think they're telling it. I just think you can be a little bit more deliberate and overt in the language in laying those stakes out.
No, I think we're on the same page here. I guess for me, I'm just fundamentally against wrestlers in violent matches and nothing comes out of it. You know what I mean?
I'm with you on that. No, we're a lot.
I can't.
Jason, our disagreements are stem from a massive overlap philosophically in agreement, and all we're trying to do is kind of refine and understand each other, and then kind of refine our arguments a bit. And you're right. There shouldn't be calendar violence in a gimmick match for the sake of violence without a stipulation going in or a ramifications coming out of it. And it just happens to fall into my opening block A commentary that we need to dial back the violence in general so that outcomes matter. Yeah.
I mean, even with the violence, right, I thought the art of wrestling was to make it look like you're hurting the person without actually hurting them. Like, I get taken out of the moment when it is too much violence. It's like, mate, why are you doing this? There's no need to do that. People are going to forget about this by the next day or the next time. We live in an environment where people got a short attention spans. Don't kill yourself. It's not worth it. It's not how you get anyway. A person I'm intrigued with is LA Knight. So the interview that he gave at the beginning of the show, right, with Kathy Kelly, he said, I thought it was, someone's gotten injured. That would mean a bye, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. Now, that is something that a heel would say. A heel wouldn't want to face someone. So, but I'm intrigued with the story they're telling with him, because to Triple H's and the writing team's credit, when baby faces turn heel, they give them enough breadcrumbs along the way where you can sort of justify them turning heel because things have worked against them. And then when they turn heel, they take it too far with their attitude, right? But with LA Knight, I feel like he's done a great job with the Vision. He hasn't been partaking with them the past couple of weeks or so. But prior to that, I thought he more than held his own. I mean, even you said, Wade, that, hey, why not give him a title? And you were kind of against, LA Knight's not really there yet. But I thought he's done such a great job with that. Now I'm intrigued where they're telling with this story. Is he going to get screwed again? Is he going to snap? And I feel like the guy who plays LA Knight, what's his real name, Sean Ricker or something, like he pays attention to detail. You can see that in his promos. He's always referencing things that happened in the past. He's paying attention to detail. So I'm intrigued where this character is going. So this is an interesting one for me.
So a couple comments in the chat, and then I want to get Javier's thoughts on this. Goodfella says, LA Knight's hitting all the right beats. I still like to see him pull a personal layer back, but he's doing well. And Zahn says, LA seems likable seems too likable at this point in his career, or maybe seems to be likable. Clarify that, Zahn, if you can. Javier, what did you make of that? Because Jason's thoughts were some of mine. This is not a babyface promo when he is asking for a bye because somebody got injured, and then he starts ranting and raving about the fact that he doesn't have time to prepare for his opponent, as if his opponent has a ton of time to prepare. I mean, I guess if there's a bunch of people who are in line for hoping they get picked, they've gotten to focus on LA Knight all week, but it's not like Miz knew he'd be the opponent for a while. So, but that's not even the main point. LA Knight came across to me, and I hope it was intentional, as kind of heelish. Like let me get a free pass to the next round. What do you think they were doing there?
I think that LA Knight kind of has inherited the Kevin Owens while he's out perspective of speaking like, hey, this kind of not the way it works in normal sports. And I think it comes more, because it's happened to him twice. So, because he was one of the ones that was facing a surprise opponent, which by the way they could have just cleaned that up by letting him know and told him don't tell anybody else. That could have been cleaned up. So I understand the frustration. It wasn't like he said I'm not going to fight, but it was more like, hey, I'm being getting short shifted a lot lately. I'm not in these multiple man tournaments to get a title shot. And he has a point. So I didn't take it as like a full blown, hey, I'm a heel, more like, hey, I'm frustrated. And, so yeah, it's fine. You basically open the door up for him to go either way, however you need to use him. So if you need to put him on the heel side, this is your breadcrumbs for him going on the heel side. If not, they're valid excuses. Not excuses, sorry. They're valid criticism that he's levying to the powers that be. Like, what kind of joint are you running here? Because he kind of feels like he feels like he hasn't been smartened up, that this is not taking it from like what an athlete would, because if you have a tournament, that's his point. Even in wrestling itself, when a wrestler in the New Japan Cup or the G1 drops out, they don't replace somebody. Then everybody essentially gets a, if not a bye, they'll have to wrestle somebody for the tournament.
Would you not agree, Javier? It's a more babyface thing to say for LA Knight to show up and be asked, how do you feel about the fact that you don't know who your opponent is tonight? And LA Knight goes, bring him on. I don't care. I'm confident I can take on anybody. I've got momentum. I'm sorry to hear about Sheamus's injury. It would have been an honor to face him, but bring on whoever Nick Aldis thinks is the best opponent for me. Instead of wanting a free pass and whining about not knowing ahead of time. I mean, to me, you can just say, oh, well, in real life, he should be told. Well, sure, but the babyface shouldn't draw attention to that on national TV and expect people to think he's a bring him on, I'll knock him down type babyface.
Well, he made that. That was exactly what he did the first time when they told him that he's going to have a secret opponent. He said, "Doesn't matter, I'm going to not knock him down." It just through happenstance it happens a second time. He didn't say I'm not going to fight him. He says that, hey, look, normally you don't do this, but he just, I'm going to fight. I'm still going to win. And well, this is the second time it's happened. And it's, 2 times is a coincidence. 3 times it's enemy action, as they say. So I could kind of see, hey, does somebody have it in with me? The type of person that he is, he's a straight shooter. I am fine with it. We'll see. But again, it could be loaded up. It doesn't make me feel any less of him as a babyface. But it does load up that, hey, we're going to go heel with this guy.
And I think it dents the notion of what a babyface like him should come across as to fans, which is the system's against me. I don't care. I'll overcome it. I'll overcome it. It's happened. It'll happen again. And it'll keep happening. No one's going to stop my destiny. And if I have to face a headwind of not knowing who my opponent is, bring it on. I mean, to me, that's just super basic babyface 101. And for him to go basically be doing a Drew McIntyre thing, the world's against me and all that, it better be a path to a heel turn, or else it's I think, and it is, if it's unintentional, it is undercutting what makes LA Knight work as an act. I can never imagine Steve Austin whining about management, not telling him who his opponent was ahead of time in the world, and everyone is stacked against me, and doing it in kind of a whiny bravado way instead of a badass, I don't care, I'll win anyway way.
Yeah, I think we're just going to see how it turns out from here, because it's very likely that, because the other thing that you could end up doing is essentially show how he acts against what McIntyre is doing, where it does seem like he's getting the short end of the stick, and then see how that compares to how McIntyre responds on how he's getting the short end of the stick. So I see two different ways of handling it.
We have to see where they're heading, but if you found out he is not turning heel, would you have tweaked his approach today, or do you think there's that even if it's a step back for a babyface to say, I want to know who my opponent is, and the world's against me, that actually can work to get him cheered if the right story is told, even if in that moment it looked like he was hardly a stand-up badass, bring it on babyface.
Well, I just be much more clear on like I don't care. It seems like everybody's against me, but hey, I'm still going to show that I'm going to beat whoever's opponent was. He kind of hinted that way, but he didn't like really like nail the point home that I don't care who it is 2 times in a row that I'm facing an opponent blind, but I'm going to still take him down no matter what. So
he said whoever's Mr. Opponent is will get slapped back to factory settings, and he closed. With that.
Okay,
and that's good.
Yeah,
but that is good. Yeah,
it kind of. If you want me to psychoanalyze what actually happened, I think this is his real life frustrations coming through. And then as he was walking away, he's like, "Oh crap! I sounded like a whiny little bleep. Let me add this. I don't care who my opponent is. I'll slim. It kind of felt like I forgot about this because I was actually getting something off my chest. That if I were to actually go into that kind of mode. So yes, the emphasis. I agree. The emphasis was too much. I don't mind that he made the emphasis that hey, maybe management has it against me. I don't have a problem that he mentioned that, but I think if he did put too much emphasis on that, then hey, I'm going to beat whoever they put in front of me.
Rude Dog in the chat says LA Knight always feels heelish. He never claps hands with fans. He just kind of has a prick attitude. Yes, but I would say everything about him is as a babyface would be a guy who would walk in and say, the world is against me, but I don't care. Bring on anyone. I'm ready for him. I'll knock him back to factory settings. But he didn't take that direct path. He took a path that felt, oh, woe is me. I don't know who my opponent is, and now I might not win. I need to know who my opponent is to win. It's unfair. Like it did get in that true. So if that wasn't their intent, they might land. And he landed in a good spot. I'll knock him back to factory settings. But the path there might be Javier. Although they had all week to make him, to edit it out or reshoot it or whatever. And they did. All right, Jason, you heard us talk. What do you think?
He's got this sort of paranoid energy to him, right? And I think that stems from, obviously when he was introduced on WWE TV, it was this manager, he was cast in the wrong role, and obviously he's broken through, right? And even with his character, he suffered like a number of setbacks, and from a character point, he's been screwed out of title chances and all the rest of it. So I understand, like, I think he towed the line nicely, like he acknowledged that things have worked against him, but he's going to go against it anyway. But he's going to work against it anyway. So I think he towed and he has that sort of prickish attitude, but it's always been there, right?
Well, he hasn't been a whiner. That's the thing. He hasn't.
But I think he I don't know if he. I think he effectively said, "This is the way it should be, but it's not." Okay, fine, but this is what I'm going to do about it. But are you saying that he won because he acknowledged that it's unfair, that again he's got a mystery opponent? Like, can he get away with saying that? And are we underestimating the fans' sympathy towards him? Like, yeah, you know what, he's right. And just because he's acknowledging something that went wrong against him doesn't make him a whiner. He's just acknowledging something bad happened, but he's going to do something about it.
Yep. I mean, that's the I won't say charitable. That is the glass half full way of looking at it. And if this is just a blip in what I thought was him feeling like, I don't think feeling like a victim is attractive. I don't think in real life being a victim is attractive. I don't think in wrestling it's especially attractive. Just always, I'm the victim. Oh, I was going to go out on a walk today and now it's raining. I'm a victim. It's like, no, that's just life. That's just, things don't always go your way. And, oh, I don't know who my opponent is because somebody got hurt. Why hasn't someone told me yet? I just don't think playing the victim is a babyface characteristic. So, and I thought he straightened that. It felt out of character for him.
Well, that's what I initially thought too. Sorry, Javier. That's what I initially thought too. But I'm intrigued. How do you turn this guy heel? First of all, you definitely have to change his music.
Well, if they're doing that, I have no problem if that's what they're doing. I want to be clear. If that's the path they're on, I'm just worried that's not the path they're on. And they just thought, oh, let's just have him act aggrieved and whiny. Even if the second half corrected course. And I made my point, but go.
Yeah. Sorry, Javier?
Yeah, there's obviously a line, and the thing is that we all agree there's a line. I think like whether it crossed or not, I think is subjective, and I think that for me, it did not cross the line. It came close to it, and I agree that you probably don't want to do that, and that's why I mentioned that psychologically that might have been what drove him so close to that line. When you Wade think he crossed over that line. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so to me, it didn't bother me. But that's what I'm saying. Let's see what happens next to see if it's, if it was just he came up too close to that line, or if it's something that they're planning to do.
Yep.
I just think he's done a really good job of maintaining himself near the top of the card.
Yeah.
Because this whole gimmick, well, I don't want to say gimmick, but his whole act would have burnt out quickly. But he has shown that he's shown that he belongs, and he has held himself on the mic. He's got that confidence. Like I said, he's got sort of a paranoid energy to him where I don't want to lose my spot. It took me this long to get here, and I'm going to do whatever I can to keep it, and no one's going to take it away from me. And every time I cut a promo, I'm always going to focus on the fact that I'm here for the championship. So he's got his own quote-unquote vision, and I think he's been really effective, and I'm intrigued where the character will go and add more depth to it. But anyway, I'll leave it at that, guys. Good talking to you. All the best for your Thanksgiving over there, and we'll see what happens at War Games.
Thanks, Jason. Great hearing from you,
Right.
Jason
See
D
you,
from
Javier.
Australia. Cool. Javier, what'd you think of the Becky Lynch backstage segment where her partners thought she was gave off vibes that she was rather insufferable?
Yeah, I love it. That was great. This has been my favorite version of Becky. So just over the top, like more so was it Monday? Yeah, the Monday one where she just went one by one on everybody, and like the whole positive comment followed by completely just kneecapping them. That was great. I love the version of her. I love the fact that she basically took over the group. It kind of feels like the rest of the group is just letting her like believe that she's in charge, and they're fine with her believing that she's in charge because they can use her. I love the whole dynamic between their group.
Her line said, "I don't want to shame any of you, to all four of her partners, but I'm the only girl on the team with 100% success rate in war games." And
then she mentioned 10, and I don't think there've been 10.
No, of course not. Yeah. And then Nia Jax says, "This isn't about tonight. Tonight isn't about you, Becky. Asuka needs to get the advantage in war games. Let's focus on her." And then Asuka laughed and did her bit. Yeah, that was fun. It's
you won one, but you didn't get the pin. I love that. Was just great. That was Betty. Awesome.
I know. Real Legend says Becky's going to be the reason the babyfaces win. What do you think of the babyfaces getting the advantage? You can work around that by having somebody be injured and not be able to come out. That's what AEW did a week and a half ago with Briscoe.
And that's a possibility I have on my I did on the podcast. I don't know if Ripley is ready to go. So there could very easily be Ripley being taken out, and then the blame fall on Charlotte, because that's what they've been working. So if they're going to do something along those lines, maybe Ripley shows up at the end after like when everyone thinks that she's gone. But I think the idea is to that's something along those lines is gonna. It's the match with the most chances for that kind of shenanigans.
Yep. What else? What else stood out tonight, Javier? Anything else you want to bring up about the show?
Look at my notes.
What do you think of as you look? What do you think about the cinematic WrestleMania vignette on the women? The men got the poker game, Brock and Cody and Roman and Punk with Heyman. Now we had that kind of heavily produced thing. I mean, my argument is they look cool, but they're out of step with the tone of pro wrestling's presentation. They're not acting they aren't acting in a natural way, in a natural setting, like you expect wrestlers to. It feels like it was put on for the effect of looking cool. It feels staged. Makes the wrestlers feel like they're part of a Hollywood production instead of competitors in a sport. And there's a price for that trade-off. It looks cool. I'm not denying it. I think there's a price that it is revealing of a mindset behind the scenes in WWE that looking cinematic and cool is more important than having things feel organic and natural in protecting the world that pro wrestling exists in.
Basically, the long and short of it is I agree with everything you just said, except I value some of the ways that you value things differently. So in these kind of vignettes, I definitely prefer, I don't say prefer, but when they're done like this, they stay more memorable with me, because when you add stuff like the soundtrack and the kind of pacing, the way they do it, the music, the sounds, and everything kind of like more gels to me. I still remember the Cody Rhodes
Roman,
Roman
Georgia.
In the field with the drone shots and the music that was playing as they're having their conversation. I know there's a price to pay, but for me, it's kind of like the rule of cool kind of, I give more weight to the rule of cool than other people would. I know I'm in the minority, but it's just it's
I don't know
a preference. Yeah.
I'm not sure you're in the minority. I think sometimes I feel when I bring this up, people are like, well, everyone knows it's fake weight, so who cares if it looks fake as long as it looks cool. I think there's a third way. I think you can kind of triangulate this. You can have cool and you can have things that feel authentic and natural by just tweaking a little bit. Like, I don't have a problem with a cinematic presentation of the babyface team being filmed like a documentary crew, following them in Vegas at a high-end resort, and show them interacting with each other, show them working out, show them whatever, bonding. But there should be a purpose to it. What I don't like is when it looks like wrestlers have been given, what's the term, when you have to be on the set, a call time? Is that right?
Call sheet yeah.
Well, they're given a time to show up at the set and be ready, and we're going to tell you what to do and where to stand as we film you to look cool. I think a rule in wrestling is that nothing should look like the wrestlers are cooperating in order to try to sell tickets. It should be happenstance. Like that. The best way to sell tickets is to make people think the wrestlers I don't care if you buy a ticket or not. They're just there to fight for high stakes, and we have the privilege of paying money to see it with our own eyes. And that's so. I feel like that sounds so absurd to almost everybody in control of wrestling right now. That like, including and wrestlers themselves. Like, well, our whole job is sell tickets. We have to act like we want to sell tickets. It's like. And I say it all the time, and it was like this manifestation of so much going wrong in wrestling when John Cena said on that Raw episode once, "I hope we entertained you tonight," like we're at some Vegas variety show. I mean, it's just, but it's revealing of a mindset, and I think the mindset makes everything a lot less fun for wrestling fans. It should feel like a privilege to be watching them, and we want to pay money to see them fight for something that counts. Not, the wrestlers are all in on it, the announcers are in on it. All they want is our money. And so they're going to create cinematic, cool things to make us to build their characters up. But we know the wrestlers are part of that marketing. Like, show up for a photo shoot, sure, but don't look like pretend. To me, it doesn't ring true. They're pretending to just be casual, hanging out in a Vegas lounge, but they're acting. But I mean, I'm the one who doesn't think news anchors should be in movies reading scripted lines on a news desk. Like, I think news is too important to make it look like we can also just say stuff that's completely fake because we just want to be in a movie. And I feel like I'm in like 1% of the population who thinks that way. So I just don't think wrestlers should also look like they're just willing to show up and pretend to be who they are for the sake of a cinematic skit. Triangulate it, film them in a really cinematic, cool way, doing something that feels like we just captured them doing it in this setting.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably find a happy middle ground. But when we're just right now faced with a binary, do it or don't do it, I would lean to do it. I mean,
and that's just a false choice. Let's not resign ourselves to that.
Okay, no, but I'm saying, but if that's what we're
I will not even let you finish stipulating to that. I don't okay. because I do think like that's, excuse my language, I think that's a simple-minded choice behind the scenes that it gets argued instead of thinking about what you and I agree is a third option, which is let's try to make things feel authentic and honest and not make the wrestlers part of the marketing machine overtly in an unnatural way. But let's also be cinematic and cool, because I am a fan of cinema, of, that's cinema. Like, I mean, I know it's a term everybody said, but like, I want that high end. I've been arguing for AEW to do that from day one. They need more elbow grease put into what they do, or their people won't feel like stars. Their wrestlers won't feel like stars. So I'm on the side of that they've checked that box. What they haven't checked is how to do it right. And I think there's a right way and a wrong way. And I think they're doing it wrong. When it looks like Brock Lesnar, what was it? Didn't Bray Wyatt once do sort of in character, winking a nod to the audience early on, like do some promotional message for something? And I was like, Bray answers call times, and he shows up he's supposed to be this crazy guy who can't be corralled. And now he's just showing up and saying, I'll get my costume and I'll help you sell tickets to an event. Like, wrestlers shouldn't be, Miz can, like some wrestlers, they have no integrity. They're just shills. But there's other characters who should be protected. And I feel like Brock is one of them, by the way. I think Punk is a little damaged by showing, you need me to do a skit for you in Vegas where we sit around our enemies and pretend to play poker so Triple H can do a voiceover and take things to the next level with cinema. And it's like, I think that stuff's nonsense. And I also that you might remember the Georgia thing, but that type of thing chips away at people believing, being able to suspend their disbelief.
A little bit different when you're talking about a promo of them sitting around the thing, because sometimes you guys, I don't care if you guys hate each other, you guys, this is the promotion is part of it, because that's obviously just for promotional purposes, not to further along a storyline. But like the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes one, like you could tweak that by just not having the drone shot where you see that there are no cameras there. You could still have done it where you could still do multiple cameras. So you set up multiple cameras, and then a director decides to cut when they cut it together. As long as that the cuts aren't where like a camera would obviously be. You can play with it a little bit, because you don't have to be perfect. This is fantasy world anyway. So like the Rhea Ripley one and the Rhea Ripley Charlotte one just have two cameras. You can zoom in, zoom out as you want, as long as the two cameras. I don't think there were any shots where one would have appeared on the other one. You could add the soundtrack in post. You say, okay, we're going to have this conversation, and you just record the conversation that they had. And because that one to me felt like more okay than
you haven't heard the fix this week, because Todd hated that, and
I have not heard the fix this week.
It's the holiday. I get it.
Yeah. So yeah.
And I hated it too, by the way. I thought this idea of setting it up organically of, oh, we're going to have a meeting, and then and then all of a sudden they go, let's rush some post-production. And I mean, if you had a whole week to do it, that's one thing, but they just did it within the same show. And then there was that who was in the heavily produced vignette where they acknowledged the match that just happened. There was another, I'm trying to think what it was, if it was Raw or SmackDown. But there was like this intricately post-produced vignette, and and they acknowledged the result of the match that happened right before it, and it just made it seem like obviously they recorded a long time ago and they knew the outcome of the match.
Oh, you mean today?
It's solo. Yeah, I think it was solo. It was a solo
Okay.
vignette. And it was this produced segment, and it was clearly post-produced. Took an hour to post-produce. And add all the music and all the cutaways and all the editing. And he referred to the outcome of the match that was right before it. Just unbelievably stupid. I mean, disqualifying whoever. If it's Paul Heyman who was okay with that, then he should be suspended from creative for a month for that egregious decision. That's how strongly I feel about it. No matter how bright you are, if you greenlight that, you've lost sight of what makes wrestling feel immersive and believable. You've just waved the white flag, and for no good reason, because there's you can do the post-production stuff, just don't do it in a context that needlessly and easily fixably exposes things as all being fake.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're pretending that, because I was gonna say were they pretending that that SmackDown was live and not taped?
No, that was last week.
Oh, was that last week?
I'm saying no. The solo skit wasn't tonight.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, yeah, okay, so yeah, I get that. I mean, that's. I'm sorry, guys. Listen to AEW. No, I'm sorry, I'm bringing up AEW again.
Yeah.
I hate that where like a match, they're announcing a match for a pay-per-view 2 seconds after like the fight happens in the thing, before you even have a chance to talk contracts or whatever, or even the match is even the 3 count isn't finished, and they're already telling you that that Tony Khan said that there's going to be a match in Full Gear or what have you.
Yep, I agree. I don't want to give an excuse for this because you don't want to have to have fans think this hard about it, but you could. If it's a qualifying a number one contendership match and they have a graphic right away to advertise the winner of the match against the champion, it's easy to create sort of like Super Bowl t-shirts graphics for both outcomes. But you should be pretty explicit in, I think you should just, maybe mention, your graphics ready to go for both, like just a little side comment when they have something, because it's not that big of a deal to create a graphic. But yeah.
Well, I mean, they'll have stock graphics too, and then you just click the wrestler is supposed to be on that, and you can just do it that way.
True.
Too,
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the announcement, it's just so soon after that. AEW just does so soon where like you don't have time to even make the decision. But yeah. In that case, so the post production that they knew who was going to win the match. That case would be kind of like not that might be. I mean, you could kind of explain it, but it's too much to explain. It
was on SmackDown last week when Penta beat Finn Balor, and then right afterwards they had a solo vignette heavily produced, post-produced, all the bells and whistles, and he talked about facing Penta, and I'm gonna next week. So I think I've got that right, because I think that's what Todd was taking issue with.
Yeah, I mean, you theoretically could do that, but you're wasting money if he does it, like, for both possible opponents,
And then you get into that, but
like, yeah.
And then you're stipulating to the notion that it's okay, as opposed to awful, which I think it's awful in a way that chips away at everything. If you believe wrestlers are cutting 2 promos for 2 different situations so it fits on a TV show, I just the origin story of every wrestling show should be, we've got cameras here, and we hope we can track down everything that these unmanageable outlaws are going to do, and we're just trying to chase down and get the footage and hope we can capture time with them when they're dutiful employees standing in the ring around the authority, when they're dutiful employees standing on the stage, because it's time for the 10:45 meeting or the 8:20 meeting. You take away so much of what fans find cool about wrestlers when it becomes about management, and when the wrestlers are employees, and when they're just vying. It's the thing I don't like about, like, I get it in NXT when Levesque's like, hey, you did so good, here's a contract. I mean, I saw that in real life with Gabe Sapolsky after an ROH show. It literally went up to like Matt Sydal. I was like, oh, can you do the Chicago show next night? You were so great in this match. I want you on this roster. That happens. But I don't think you want to tell the fans that these wrestlers, and it's the whole reality show aspect of wrestling. It's our dream to work for WWE. That's a new thing, by the way. Like, that was not always part of pro wrestling, where wrestlers, it's their dream. It used to be the dream of the local promoter to be able to secure the talents of this wrestler to up the competition, so that we know that our champion is the best. That used to be the genesis of everything. It was the promoter having the honor of being able to secure the talent of these wrestlers. And instead, WWE has flipped it around because of the egos of promoters and bookers, and wanting screen time and wanting the fame and the glory of being the centerpiece of everything. Now wrestlers are fighting for the approval of management, and they're fighting for contracts, and they're fighting for the honor of wrestling for WWE. And it's gross. It's not fun to watch compared to the alternative. Obviously, it's selling a lot of tickets, but I tell you, it's a lot more fun when it doesn't seem like you're watching a bunch of wrestlers who are just free agents trying to secure the approval of Paul Levesque or Tony Khan or whoever. I mean, like, it should be the promoter feels privileged to have these wrestlers. If that's not real life, but you are under an obligation, Javier, on a wrestling show to reflect real life. The wrestlers are grateful to have a job in WWE. That shouldn't be the story you tell if you want to draw money. The story should be the wrestlers are the stars, and they'll be fine with or without this promotion.
Yeah, on the solo thing, I was not making a philosophical argument. It was just a logistical one. But what you're talking about, like, I found this particularly shocking with Mariah May, because Mariah May, or I don't know what name she's going by now, because she's basically made it very clear in that her dream is to work in AEW and in WWE. Yeah. And that was, I mean, we knew about that when she was in AEW, so that does lure her in my estimation, because of that, for the reason you're talking about.
Yep. Cool. Anything else, Javier?
Well, I just want to mention, I love the Miz LA Knight match, though, because it felt like a throwback. It was like, 2 different versions of LA Knight and Miz, because they're like very kind of similar in some ways.
Yep.
And that just felt like such a throwback. I really rather enjoyed that match.
And elaborate what throwback means to you in that context.
It just felt like it would have been a match on. I'm kind of, you're going to embarrass me because I'm not horrible with years. Like Survivor Series '93, like mid card kind of thing. The guys are in good shape, and they're just fighting, and they're not doing any flips, and just doing like the most athletic move you have is LA Knight jump, doing the jump on the corner to do the suplex. That was like, oh my god, that is it's like, oh my god, that's awesome. It kind of just took me back to that place.
Yeah.
And just like stuff like doing well. I mean, these two, I think these two are good, like solid wrestlers. And they just put a solid match. It just I'm not saying it's like a 5-star or anything, but it was a solid 3.
Do we like Miz, his name coming up? Like, because I didn't go back and rewatch, but was it like coincidence that his name came up, or did Nick Aldis like orchestrate it because he bought Miz's argument?
No, you missed that.
I did.
When Kofi Kingston came out and started doing the whole ball jokes.
Who came out?
Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston.
R-Truth.
R-Truth. Sorry. I have.
I get New Day doing that kind of humor, but yeah, it was definitely R-Truth, and it's been an ongoing gag. Yeah.
I have a window open.
Mark for edit.
And there's. So yeah, okay. So R-Truth comes out, does the ball playing joke.
Oh, and Miz.
And then while he's doing that, he has already opened the thing, and Miz swaps out the.
Gotcha. I did miss that, and I intended to rewatch it. And I just realized as you were bringing it up, I didn't go back and rewatch it because I knew I missed it. While I was typing up the report. I was like, something happened here because they can't sell that as just a coincidence, can they? I mean, they could. I mean, it's
you would hate this because then you apparently missed what happened right after that.
Yeah.
Was the who was the interview that was backstage?
Probably Jackie Redmond seemed to do everything this week.
Yeah, well, she says, "Oh, I think it was her." She says, "Oh, that was a great move by the Miz." swapping in the thing. Yep. It's saying like, what a piece of And
you would think that Nick Aldis would have the power, the agency, the authority to say, you know what, that's not going to stand. That's not a valid contract. You cheated.
Because it was funny because his reaction was like, I can't believe this. Great. He's probably going to be kicking himself after when he watches the replay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. And then Corey, of course, says, that's the thing. The commentary team didn't really hit on it because, which I think was not a great thing because you missed it, obviously. Because Cole says, hey, did Miz do something, weird shenanigans on there? And then Corey was like, no, of course he didn't. Why are you going to be bringing this up? So they didn't really explain to you that it had what had happened.
And I was thinking Cole was just casting aspersions without evidence, but there was evidence, and that's a part that I missed. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And because they were coy with it, you didn't know that's what had happened.
Yep.
So be a little bit more clear, commentary team.
Yes. Yes.
And then
it was Kathy Kelly tonight, not Jackie Redmond. Okay. I just shame on me. Yeah.
And the other thing was the thing with Priest, where it kind of feels almost like they're trying to tell two different stories that Priest doesn't want to really be involved with because Selena Vega and Aleister Black are basically saying we're changing you, we're making you break your morals, and then like Priest's promo is like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? So this kind of feels like an aimless a feud going on right now in search for like a reason.
Yeah, what they're doing with Priest is odd. I'm not like it might be fine. But yeah, it's I don't know.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing, and Selena, because remember, last time I was on here with you, I did talk about that. I was surprised that because when we talked the entire show, we never brought up Priest, and I made that mention. Yeah. And today, Selena basically said that it's like, look where you were, and look at where you are now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so I mean, I think they've noticed that they haven't been doing much with Priest, but at the same time, this little promo moment didn't feel like they were really, building towards anything either. Other for him to say "wepa" and hug Rhea Ripley, that's and bring them together so people could say, oh look, I remember I liked them together, yay.
Yes, yep, cool. Javier, anything else you want to bring up here?
Well, I just had a thought. Maybe that means that Rhea's next thing after this might end up being teaming up with Priest. So Priest, Rhea versus Black and Selena Vega. That just crossed my mind that might be something they're building towards. So other than that, I think that's pretty much wraps everything up that I had.
Cool. Javier, great talking with you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Survivor Series tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm assuming I'm going to be on call on Christmas weekend.
You assume you'll be on call?
I tend to be the holiday guy, so
You brought that up before. It is as coincidental as Miz being drawn when he was lobbying for it.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, thanks everybody. Don't forget our VIP sales going on. If you've been thinking about it, jump on in and you can hear our Survivor Series post-show roundtable tomorrow. Todd Martin and Rich Fan and I will be doing the roundtable. We've been doing post-pay-per-view roundtables at PWTorch for over 2 decades. They're all available on demand for all the major pay-per-views since 2003 or 4, and go VIP. Get $9 off a sub right now. Bring a $12.99 monthly sub down to just $3.99. Use coupon code NOV2025 when you check out. That's NOV as in November, NOV 2025 to get $9 off. You can apply to a 3-month or 12-month sub too, if you want the lower kind of average rate overall over the course of a year. Go for that too, and we'd love to have you as a customer. And I think you'll really, really, really enjoy what we offer our VIP members. That sale expires soon, so check that out if you haven't. pwtorch.com/go VIP. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Check out my report at PWTorch, the website, tomorrow during Survivor Series.